Hello and welcome back everyone. We are now going to kick off with the world building segment of this stream, starting half an hour late, I know, but these tend to go late anyway, so I'm kind of okay with it. For those of you who have been joining us recently, you will know that this is how the map looks at the moment. This is effectively the finished map. Things can always change, things will. I'm very much expecting them to tweak and change over time, particularly because at the moment there are no settlements on it, there are no roads, no trade routes, nothing like that. It is just a blank canvas. Just as a very, very brief recap, the idea here is that basically one of the gods was killed by the other gods here where the crater is, causing a great big magical explosion. The land bridge that was here got smashed through, water flooded in, turned what was a small lake into basically an inland sea. The race whose god this was basically the genies. The genies had most of the magic burnt out of them. Those who were nearest the center of the explosion are now humans, which are basically magicless genies. Then we have the elves further on the outskirts. We have the gnomes in the mountains where they were sheltered from the main blast. And then we have various half races emerging from that. So we have the humans and the elves intermixing, causing half elves. We have the humans and the gnomes intermixing, causing halflings. And then we also have the elves and the gnomes intermixing. Haven't quite decided that, possibly drow. But with a very different culture, it would have to be. We also have a number of different races coming in from different areas. We have the dwarves down here. These are the dwarven realms. Two major kingdom areas with the desert in between. Trade comes in from the east. I'm going to turn the music down because it seems to be quite loud. There we go. Through the Dwarven Realms from where it then disperses. One of the big changes on the map recently is the fact that this is now a full continent down here rather than just kind of a peninsula. That is to block a lot of the shipping, which could have gone around this. The shipping has to go through the dwarves where it's dispersed. Or, as is going to happen right at the beginning of the post-setup part of this, is basically there's a canal built through here, and that's probably going to be about 10 years before when I would start any campaigns. There are various migrations hitting from different parts of the map, and that is what I want to go over today. And the general timeline of when things occur. So one of the things which I think would be kind of useful to set up would be a timeline spreadsheet, so we can come up with a couple of times and then have a rough idea of what stuff happens when. So this is going to be the Promescence timeline. We'll just set that over there, and then we can work from that. Also, hello everyone. Hello. And Trips, how are you doing? Glad you're joining us. So, one of the questions that needs to be settled is just how long a time are we talking here? And honestly, some of the discussion that we were having last week was kind of suggesting that the splits would have been like Bronze Age collapse. I think that's too recent. That would still only give us a couple of thousand years, as opposed to tens of thousands of years, to resolve the dramatic evolution of the different races. I think that the death of Mordius should be more along the lines of when the Neanderthals and the Homo sapiens and then all of the other sapient creatures split. So we're talking tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands. Because I still would like to keep something relatively close to a human timeline in terms of when things happen in history. Sure, we can tweak it, sure, we can change things, but it just forms a really nice basis, and that again point to allow people to get an idea of when things were happening. So I think I just prefer the much longer time span for this. Having a larger time span would make more time for other human entities to spread all over the world. Yeah, and also allow just the other races to evolve. Like we've been saying that dwarves, trolls and ogres are all derived from giants. That's a whole other timeline that we will need to work out at some point, but that also needs time to happen, and that does not occur because of a magical accident. That's more just a overtime circumstance thing. And then different types of trolls. Then we also have the dragons and the rise of the kobolds and the dragonborn. So when was the rise of Homo sapiens? Not Homo sapiens. I mean, there might be Homo sapiens, you know, people just chill at home. Anatomically, modern humans emerged about 300 years ago in Africa. So we're going to say that this line up here is going to be real. Then this one is going to be quintessence. And then we're going to say 300 years ago plus. I mean, this is wrong. What I should do is say stuff that was happening in reality there, and then quintessence would be below it. And then we have the actual 300,000 there. So that is when Homo sapiens split. You're right, that's 300 million, isn't it? No, 300,000, not 300 million. $300 million would be a very long time. Yeah, 300 million's dinosaurs. We're not going that far back. Although, one thing that we should say for quintessence is emergence of the Lizardman Society. That was actually the earliest. And also giants. Oops. So then this is when Mordeus. The Mordeus Cataclysm is right there. I'm going to give myself a bit more space. Let's double the length of those. There we go. Then other important events is this 1,000 years? Must be. So 150,000 years they were in South Africa, 70,000 in Arabia, 50,000 there, 45,000 in Europe. And then only 1,000? Yeah, that makes sense, in Iceland. That's when the Vikings arrived, and I don't think there was anyone in Iceland before the Vikings got there. So 25,000 years ago was the American migration. So in terms of this is probably when the other, when the other splits were occurring. Because the waves that we're looking at would be some of these. So we have, I think what I'm going to do for this is I'm just going to note down some mass migration dates. So we've got, for example, and these are the important ones, the Hunnic migration, we've got the Mongol migration, we've got the I'm sure there's others. Fall of Rome. Mongols. I mean, Mongol invasion, as we all know what the Mongol invasion. Seljuks, possibly. And also I want to have a vague idea of when this stuff was occurring. That's the other point. So we've got the Huns, which was the 430s. Then we got the Mongols, which would have been the 1200s. We have Alexander the Great, that's another really important one. Because that's when the hobgoblins come charging out. When were you king? When were your invasions? 334 BC. Any other big changes? I'm sure there must be some. So if this game is starting 1444. Ish. I'm not going to say it's exactly 1444, but that seems like a decent start. Then there is actually an important event, which is 1300s. I think it's early 1300s. Advent of gunpowder. Because I've decided that this is when the orcs arrive. The orcs are going to be a relatively new player on the map, and they're going to be one of the events that causes a lot of shifting. So there's about like 600 years, which is just tumultuous, very tumultuous. Who discovers gunpowder? I think it's actually going to be the orcs. I'm thinking that the orcs coming in causes a pretty significant shift in terms of the powers. Because remember, the orcs arrive from basically sinking Atlantis. The orcs are going to be fairly technologically advanced, but they lose a lot of it when they move. And one of the things they do bring with them is gunpowder. Early gunpowder, like we're talking bombards. Maybe arquebuses, but that's about it. Christopher Ocambus. There you go. Oh yeah, Seljuks and Ottomans. When was that? That would be in here. It's like 1,000 or so, isn't it? Yeah, it would have been like 1,000 AD. Anatolia from the Byzantines, 1071. So, in terms of in-game stuff, this is going to be hobgoblins. I think we can kind of roll in the Mongols with the advent of gunpowder, which is going to be the Orcish migration. Which is interesting, because I was kind of thinking the hobgoblins would have been later. But one of the other waves is what knocks the hobgoblins out and forces them to move south. We've got the goblin migration as well. When do they arrive? No, we can always make Alexander later. So we could actually make 0 AD the rise of the hobgoblin Alexander. Because I do want the I want the goblins to be around a while. Because they need time to split into goblins and hobgoblins. So I mean, in terms of our timeline, we could have the fall of Rome being when the hobgoblins arrive. So the hobgoblins are more Attila. And that gives us like 700 years-ish for the goblins. What other migrations do we have? I know there's a few. Oh yeah, we have the gnome emergence too. And this is interesting because it actually is like a full 1,000 years later that the orcs finally arrive. Draconics, of course. Alright, let's take another look at the map. Because what we need to work out is how the hobgoblins get from here to here. Now, it would follow that the hobgoblin Alexander conquers his way down this way, which means something else coming in from here or across here kicks him out, unless he goes down this way. Actually, I think it makes more sense to go this way. So I think it's the Draconic invasion that forces the hobgoblins further south. They try to get through the Dwarven realms, but the dwarves kick them out. There's going to be an entire saga of how the hobgoblins get from here to here. I love it. When do the horsey boys come? Centaurs, I think it's just going to be an ongoing thing. There isn't really a centaur migration. There's just constant centaur incursions. But the Draconic invasion's a big one. That is, again, going to be another really big change. So the arrival of the Seljuks, that makes sense. It's the arrival of the Ottoman Empire as well. Seljuk being Proto-Ottomans. So this is going to be the Draconic. Now that is a proper invasion. We do have the Crusades as well, that's true. Oops, not Crusaders, Crusades. Period between 1091 and 1291, so it'd kind of be in here. Well, 1100s to 1300s. Yeah, there's also the Northern Crusades, true, but that's in the same era. Crusade should wait until we establish some religions. Bookworm, remember this is the real histories. I'm just trying to get ideas when there was conflict in reality versus when it's going to be in here. And Crusades were definitely an era of conflict. I don't know that I would necessarily consider it a mass migration, though. So, this is a good question. What happens... In fact, would it even be called 1 AD? Yeah, it should be something which is 0 AD. What is the event that kickstarts the calendar? We don't necessarily need to come up with something for that now. Nah, Cataclysm is 300,000 years ago. Can't spell Cataclysm. There you go. No, I don't agree the Cataclysm should be closer. Because remember, we want time for evolution to occur. Which isn't just the genie evolution, it's also evolution of the giants and the dragons. So it's gotta be a long time. Any interesting travel events spreading information about the world? Marco Polo, Mansa Musa. That's a good question. Yeah, 0 AD should be something close historically. Yes, I agree. Fall of West Rome was the Huns. That's when the Hobgoblins push out. So instead of the Hobgoblins kind of being our Alexander, they're more of our Attila. I mean, they're not even Attila, they'd be more like the Ostrogoths. It would be Alaric taking over Rome. Black Death, that is a really good one. And also Justinian's Plague. So that was 1340s. Ah, okay. And then Justinian's Plague was 540s. Because yes, we should definitely have disease events. They're kind of a big deal. Huzzah! Is the calendar even going to be the same for each race? No, this is just the calendar for this region. It's the big events for this area. Which is why I'm being so European-centric. That's not because the rest of the world doesn't matter, it's because this is Europe and North Africa. So there are a couple of other things. So Bronze Age collapse, because we do need to look at the older stuff too. Bronze Age collapse was 1200. And what would that be? That would be... When was the Iliad set? Oops. 12th or 13th century BCE. So we'll say that Greek city-states. Wait, they're before the Bronze Age. Because time goes backwards. It's confusing. That's a good one, actually, yes. When did Charles the Hammer Battle of Tours? That was stopping the Arabs in France. That's 732. And then the 711 was... what are they called? Moorish conquest. Yeah, those are good. Gives us a little bit more stuff going on in this era as well. The Great Flood could also be the Cataclysm. Yeah, actually, it's a good point. When did the Mediterranean fill? Because that's often seen as the Great Flood. How's the Norse Dutch playthrough going? It's good. I've been enjoying that one. You can find it up on the UpTubs. That is also a good point. Little Ice Age was 1600s. The medieval warm period was 1000 to 1200. Which is why they think that Greenland was habitable by the Vikings, because that was in that period where temperatures were, yeah, quite a lot higher. And then the Little Ice Age is when lots and lots of stuff started freezing. That's kind of beyond our timeline, though. Medieval warm period is definitely going to be relevant. Yeah, I wonder what happened here. We did. Thank you. Egypt. Yes, that is one of the ones that I wanted to look at. So this is the Old Kingdom. Because that's definitely something that we need to pull from. So we're going to say that's like 2,400-ish. I'm making an estimation right now. Another question. When was the city of Sumer around? $3,300. And Babylon. Well, I mean, that can tie into the rise of these guys. Then we have the Bronze Age collapse. What happens after the Bronze Age collapse between that and Alexander? Because this is probably gonna be the start of our timeline. That's when we have the emergence. And then we're going to have the late emergence of the gnomes. Possibly as late as the 700s. Except then halflings wouldn't have a chance to occur. No, that would be a lot earlier. It should be a lot earlier. Julius Caesar was... 49 BC. Neo-Assyrian, Neo-Babylonian periods post-Bronze Age collapse, and the Persian simultaneously another wave of settlement from the Phoenicians. Oh, that's true, yeah. So that would be the Greek colonies. So this is when the humans start to rapidly expand. And it wouldn't have been that heavily affected by the goblins. The goblins are mostly going after the elves. No, sorry, that's the hobgoblins. Because maybe would have been some humans up here, but I see the humans being more southerly. I mean, there probably are. Another thing I was thinking of being up here would be maybe ogres or trolls, like stone trolls, more Norwegian style. Punic Wars, yep, that's another good one. Second Punic War in particular. That was the fall of Carthage. 201 BC. Which is here. One. Oh, was the third Punic War? Oh, I stand corrected. Thank you. Second Punic War was Hannibal. Maybe we could do the hobgoblins then. So that was... $247. .509, traditional date of founding of Rome. That's another good one to have. I mean, the Trojan... Yeah, when was the Trojan War? We'll add it in. Celtic migrations? That's a good question. Yeah. I mean, that's circa 500. That's later. Oh, good one. Off map might have an effect. 324 BCE, the Mauryan Empire in India is founded. Yeah, I'm trying to keep this to Europe at the moment. I mean, the whole hobgoblin escapades would be... Oops. A different thing. Didn't realise I could go between tabs by pressing the mouse buttons. Interesting. So if we have the human emergence, human elven emergence would be around here. Then we'll have the gnomes. 509 BC? Yeah. The gnomes are going to be the Rome. The Romes. Spelt R-N-O-M-E. Yes, lizardmen, but they'll be an older civilization. So the lizardmen are barely on the map, they're down here. But they've probably gone through a couple of rises and falls of their own. Gromes. So there have been a couple of really good suggestions for other races. The other one that I really like the idea of are the man scorpions, the tin Kalis. They would have been down here. So you've got the man scorpions in this area, you've got the lizardmen here, and you've got tieflings here. And then you've got the turtles in these islands. And actually part of the ongoing saga of the start dates would be the orcs and the turtles fighting. And then we have the goblins arriving here, the goblins splitting off, and probably, I don't know, what would really flat, relatively sandy. I mean, goblins probably could scrape a living from that, especially if they have a raider culture. Then the hobgoblins stay up here, kind of in the fjords, infighting, until they reach critical mass, and then they go and explode outwards. They probably come through here, which is why the elves are taken by surprise, because the elves don't usually look north. Ooh, I know who else, the Roshan. Because they would be the far northerners. But they're not really an invasion, they just kind of appear. Forgive again the lack of background knowledge, but that narrow isthmus in the centre of the map looks like a place some particularly ambitious local potentate may try to dig a canal. That is why the hobgoblins are so important, because it's the hobgoblins that establish a city there and do just that. And that is probably going to be 1434-ish. So that canal has not been around for very long, but it has dramatically shifted the balance of power in this area. And then that hobgoblin city is basically a free city. So anyone can come and go. And the hobgoblins become Byzantine. Yeah, precisely that. And that kind of leads to the Renaissance, the Hobgoblin Renaissance. Bird race, yeah, Aarakocra is another one that I would like to introduce. I mean, Aarakocra could actually be native to here. Or we can put the Aarakocra somewhere else. Like, they don't have to be Europeans. I would like to save some of the civilized races for other areas. Ortega, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to the channel. CPM coming in with a 29-month resubscription. Thank you very much for the ongoing support there. CPM, only 29 open, unsaved Notepad documents. Can you truly call yourself a modder if you don't have at least 30 or 40 unsaved files open at the same time? I mean, actually, it's a little surprising that none of these are mod files. They very often are. Maybe model Loxodons on Mali. Well, that's interesting. Because I do kind of want the Loxodons to be from further south. Like, we do need to have somebody here in the savannah. I have not placed anyone in here yet. Maybe Minotaurs, but again, I kind of feel like we could do something more interesting with Minotaurs. I feel like they, again, should be further south. Like, yeah, this is climatically Kenya. So maybe it's suitable to put them there, I'm not sure. That's where the... What, this one? Nothing. This is just a very, very high-edged volcanic mountain range. This bit isn't actually there. That's just to say that's where the god was murdered and that's where the cataclysm started. Nubians. Yeah. Nubians and Egyptians. Scorpion men would kind of be like the Berbers, yeah, probably. But in terms of like the Nile, that would have been here. This is kind of the Amazon meets the Nile. So you got the Amazon for this section, and then it rapidly becomes the Nile for this. Loxodon, Ethiopia, possibly. I still want to have the Loxodon further away. Same with the Leonids, I kind of want them further away. Minotaurs here? Maybe. I could kind of see this being Minotaur. Although I always kind of felt the Minotaur should also be from hillier, more mountainous territory. Although, being open plains, it's more similar to, I'm thinking the Great Migrations of the wildebeests. That's kind of how I imagine Minotaur migrations. They'd be very nomadic. Gnolls. Yeah, gnolls are another good one to put in somewhere. Could even have the gnolls being kind of in this region. And then we'd have constant attacks from the gnolls in the south. Which is part of the reason that the hobgoblins might like this area, because that keeps a very, very aggressive border where they can keep their military trained. No, Minotaurs are not from the islands. The islands are turtles. Turtle people. And then later the orcs. And actually, you know what? Actually, I hadn't even planned this. But the close proximity between the technologically advanced orcs and the hobgoblins who then lead to the Renaissance, having these two so close together makes massive sense. Because they would have the most interactions between each other. And then the hobgoblins would kind of find themselves under assault from the gnolls in the south and then the orc raiding as well. Which might be why they set up the canal so that they can move fleets from one side to the other. Because until then, I would say that this area is probably a more important maritime region than this. Because you still get trade coming in from the east. And I do want to have the Silk Road or the Gold Road as it's probably called in this, to be super important. Trade with the draconic empires of the East. So they're probably going to be a fair bit closer in this than they are in reality. And yeah, something should be in here. Like, I quite like this area. You got your Lake Victoria type thing. That's what that is. It's where a lot of the agriculture of all of this comes from. Like, this is open, wide open, nomadic space. And this would be the more urbanized center. And yeah, like, Reggie, that's kind of how I'm thinking of the Loxodon at the moment. I want them to be a bit more mythical. Oh yeah, I mean, the humans got everywhere. I was talking to Tuna about how to space out the humans. He came up with a really good idea. So, the humans have this almost genetic need to find something to fill the gap that was left by magic. Like, they still have almost a genetic memory of what it was like to have that power of magic, and they need something else to do. With that, they need a new expression of ambition, and that's basically exploration. So the humans get everywhere, which is again why I need a longer period of time for them to do that. Do we have a Venice type deal on the map? We have an Amsterdam type deal on the map. I mean, Venice could be anywhere. Honestly, a Venice type deal would probably be out here. It would be the boat dwarves. I like the mountain chain near the coast of the Indian Red Sea. So, these. So harpies down here. Possibly. But anyway, I'm not that bothered about this area yet. I want to more fill this in. This is probably going to fill in kind of on its own as we get the different migrations going. But I'm happy that we've got the different eras. So the important ones are the human-elven emergence, the gnomish emergence, the goblin migration, the hobgoblin conquest, the draconic invasion, and then the orcish migration. And I also want to put something for Justinian's Plague and the Black Death. Probably some kind of disease event. Because that's another way of shaking up society. Like, part of the reason I want these dates is these are events that can change the map. They're the shake-up. The thing that everybody else has to react to. So, how do I want to progress from here? Like, this is really good. I'm actually going to go ahead and put those in my timeline document so I save them. Might be beating a dead horse, but two major fronts, Persia and the Bulgars, playing a big role in Byzantine history. Hard to deal with both. Yeah, I know, but the thing is, we haven't established a Byzantium equivalent. Because one of the things I'd like to avoid is a massive central empire. Like, it is the most done-to-death cliche thing of all time, is just to have the empire. I want to get away from that a bit if I can. So could we have a Western, Eastern, similar empire? Sure. Do they originate from the same ultra entity? Probably not. If only because, like, the humans and the elves, I don't think would ever unify in such a big block. The dwarves are more like the Ottomans. So, yes. The dwarves are, well, maybe. Because I would like there to be 2 different, like, sects of dwarves, maybe even 3. So you have, like, the hinterland dwarves, and then you have the borderland dwarves. And possibly also the boat dwarves. So, I think what I would like to do is work out where the emergences are. So the human and the elven emergence in 3300 BC. These are the rise of the first city-states. Which for the humans... Like, where would the Fertile Crescent be on this map? I would say the elves is definitely over here. Nile area. Well, I feel like the bigger human cities would actually be down here. Late game. Again, actually, it would be kind of interesting if they lost their beginner cities. I mean, this area is ludicrously fertile. That's kind of the whole point of it. Although this is more like... I've kind of done this a bit of a disfavour. At this point in the game, and in fact, I think what I might even do to represent how it looks at this point is I'm going to turn all of that into marshland. Because this is a relatively recent innovation from the halflings. Indus Valley as well, yes. Indus Valley, Fertile Crescent. Both of them are good analogies. We want Origin 12, and we're going to turn this into Origin 13. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn this into marsh. Or water. I mean, I'm going to make it marsh so I can see where their stuff is upgraded. In fact, I think I went a bit gung-ho with it there. I think that this should be grassland. So this is the Nile Delta. This bit of land is going to be constantly shifting. About the only places that don't would be these, and that's basically where Alexandria would be built. But I'm wondering if... Because remember, before the Cataclysm, although I guess it doesn't really matter for this point... This is all mountain. Which means that it would be very difficult to get to this bit until later. Oh yeah, title, thank you. Good point. Which world am I building? My world. From Essence. So the big navigable rivers would definitely be here, 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 and then down here. I mean, it would be kind of interesting if we have the Nexus of Humanity down here. It gives them a heck of a lot more space between them and the elves to really spread out. It would also provide more reason for this area to be populated by humans. So I think we want to have one emergence place over here for humans and then one over here. So it's like Sumer, Babylon, and Uruk. Or Ur. Let's get rid of those mountains. Yeah, I think the Elven Fertile Crescent is definitely over here. Although, again, at this point of time, like all of this. Fact. Honestly, this is probably swampy. So not exactly the most pleasant. Maybe like up here. Because this would be very disease-ridden. This would be more like Cairo. Or Memphis. Babylon is, Baghdad, isn't it? Where is Baghdad? Yeah, way up there. See, it's not anywhere near any of the oceans. Because no boats at that point. Or at least not really good functioning ones. 50 miles south of Baghdad, so it would have been around here somewhere. So I think the Elven start place is going to be here. Maybe up in the hills for a bit of protection. So I think that is what I'm going to do. I need some new stuff. It's not terrain, it's features. Here we go. So Babylon. Names obviously pending. For something else. So that's going to be where the Elven Babylon is. Can I edit this? Yes. So that's where the High Elves are. That's their start point. Then we got human ones, and I do think that there should be 2 of them. And I think that one of them does make logical sense to be down here. Again, this would be kind of marshy. But back here wouldn't be. Like in the woods, that's actually a pretty nice area. So this is going to be... I'm just going to call it for now. And this is going to be humans. Or S-humans. And they're going to be right there. And their location is going to be this. Right there. And then we got Sumer. Which I think it does make the most sense being here. I mean, this is interesting that these guys basically lose their ground to the halflings. So this probably gets completely destroyed at some point. Carthage style. Now that's going to be one hell of an event. Oh, hang on. Did I just change that label? Ah, where's it gone? So we've got the northern humans, the southern humans, and then the elves. What's this world building for? Just something I fancy doing. And possible D&D campaigns in the future. Still don't like the Whale Island. Beautiful choke points. Oh, this one. Or this one. They both kind of look like whales. As long as it's not Bird Island. Bird Island's taken, and it's that one. Yes, we should have the Dwarven cities. So the dwarves at this point have probably been around a little while. Because we have kind of established the dwarves would have been an older race. And we said that the modern day dwarven capital is in here. Because it's super defensive. With a tunnel connecting through here. But the dwarves of this era are probably up here. Probably right there, in fact. In fact, these should be the southern dwarves. Because I do want to have another group of dwarves in the north. Although, would they appear at this point? Maybe not. It's actually a really good location. Mountain for building materials and eventual metals. Woodland really close by, and then very, very arable. That's a really good capital location, actually. Dwarves got lucky. It's almost like I'm favouring them or something. In fact, at this really early point, I don't even think that there would be 2 sets of dwarves. I think we could probably settle with just 1. So at some point we have to work out why the dwarves split, and when. So it's about 400 years ago. It's still going to be fairly recent memory. You pointed out 2 major rivers there next to each other in the east. Looks like a good river valley to me. Oh, these ones. Yes, but they're too far away for what I want to do. Because remember, the center of the genies from which the elves and the humans originated from is here. Because back in the day... That's not the one I wanted. That's the one I wanted. The inland sea looked like this, and the explosion centered on that. And then that becomes that. Zoom them both out, you can see them. Heck, you can even see it side by side. There we go. Let's do it the other way around. This becomes this. Ignore the south. The south has always looked like this. So the genies had big population centres here, and then also a couple up here, where they basically followed these rivers. And that is where the elves are now. It's the remnants of this river here. And then this river network is now actually underwater, effectively. And then the land bridge that was inundated is there. Water rushes in, floods all of this. This map actually does a really good job to see just how radically the map has changed. Also, this Amazon was a hell of a lot bigger than my current version. It went much, much further north. I should probably add that. It does make sense. And it came all the way up from there. Which also makes sense. River coming through here. Because I do mean this river to be flipping enormous. Interestingly, it emptied out there, now it empties out down here. Maybe pull a two-Rome situation, the dwarves slowly stretch themselves into state, becomes too decentralized. Something like that. Yeah, I could certainly see that happening. Like, I don't think the dwarves are just here. They are probably already relatively well established in this region at the start of the human-centric timeline. They're just the cities that humanity doesn't know about yet. So we got the elves, we got the two humans, we got the dwarves. Then we have lizard men. Who are already established out here. But I don't think I necessarily want to put them on the map just yet. So then we basically come to the query of where do we go from here? So this is the stage set 3300 BC. That's true, yeah, there would be somebody important here. I mean, eventually, this is where the Dragonborn end up. So after their massive invasion, in the 1000s. Ooh, that happens just after the Dwarven split. That's probably why the Draconic invasion's so successful. Because the dwarves can't put up a united front. That's interesting. Okay, so losing my frame of thought a little bit. So the next thing that happens is the Egyptian Old Kingdom, which is the first really... I mean, the Egyptian Old Kingdom, it kind of has to be the elves in this setting. This becomes the biggest, most prosperous area. This is just such a good location to build up. And then at that point, we just have elven settlements popping up along the entirety of this river. Usually you see the dwarves to be the tradition-heavy, repetitive, and security sense. Of course, they usually have a Nordic base. I mean, I'm not saying the elves are going to be like the Egyptians. No. I'm just saying, like, again, this is tracing through time. This is going to be the population centre. And that might be why the elves stagnate a bit, because they get so settled. So they would be a really tough beastie to take down. Then you have the Greek city-states, which is the humans. That's when they start their massive rapid expansion. And then we have the Bronze Age collapse. We need the boat people. I mean, that could be started by whoever's over here. It would be... someone who loses to the Dragonborn. So who was there in the valley before the Dragonborn show up could lead to a population displacement in the Elven Kingdom, making the Jews in Babylon situation? Yes. That's what I'm thinking, although that would be quite a lot later. We're talking 2,000 years earlier. And yeah, I think the river elves, the high elves are almost certainly blue in this world. Hey, Davidius. So we have centaurs here and here. This is probably an inland sea, Caspian Sea style, with maybe... I mean, Caspian... does the Caspian empty out into anything? Yeah, it's technically a lake. What does it empty into? So the Volga drains into it. Where's it drain out to? I just had a thought, what if these guys were the Minotaurs? Or at least a proto-Minotaur type. Where would they have gone? Probably would have been pushed up here. Satyrs? Maybe. This is the Feywild, though. This is where the Wood Elves, the Forest Gnomes, Satyrs, all of those guys would be in here. Yeah, I could see this being like Minotaur kingdoms. Using the mountain as a border between them and the elves. Satyrs are kind of just smaller Minotaurs. I mean, they could have become Satyrs. I mean, that's part of the reason why this is all foresty. You know, that's not actually a bad idea. Let's go to our timeline dock. Origins, that's what we need. So we are officially adding Minotaurs. Because I do kind of like the idea that this is the Minotaur realm. Probably rising at a relatively similar time as those guys. Satyrs would come from Minotaur human elf crossbreeding. I like it. Given the Highland Marsh. We don't have Goliaths! I mean, that could be another thing this area would be. This could be other giants. Because there would still, I think, be giants kicking around, or ogres or something like that. I was thinking eventually of having the ogres up here, but we could well have the ogres up here. It's part of the reason why trade through this northern route's not really possible, because the ogres are too hostile. But yeah, Goliaths. Goliaths are another race that I totally forgot about, and they are popular. Goliaths. I had them here as giant offshoot. I kind of like the idea that these would be like remnant giants from the giant golden age. Kind of some of their kind went south and became the dwarves. I could see ogres and dwarves having stuff in common. So if we make this the ogre realm, and then the draconics come in, or it would, yeah, would definitely give them a rival to the elves. Trolls are giant kin, yeah. So trolls are found in the marshes and the swamps. There's here, here, here. So this whole area feels like it should be giant offshoots. So this, I mean, Minotaurs could also be an offshoot of giants. Because I definitely feel like now the Goliaths would be up here. Probably in this bit. I feel like this would be a very good Goliath region. Or Satyr. Satyrs pushed across from here. They'd be the only ones that are permitted down the rivers by the Fae. Maybe. Where are the giants to start? I mean, I hadn't really intended the giants to be necessarily originating in this area, because this is the genie realm. But we could have the giants kind of in the big steppe area. That's why they're big. It's like mammoths. They roam. And then as they settle, they get smaller. When was Marathon and Darius? (490 BC). So that would be here. Wait, would that be the... No, that would be the invasion of. And then at some point they would need to fall, probably pushed either by the hobgoblins, and the hobgoblins take their place for a time. That's the most likely. Which is why they get pushed north and then the hobgoblins move here. This is when the hobgoblins get really, really complacent. And they get absolutely obliterated by the draconics. And then you kind of have the Trail of Sorrows. Moving them down here. Dragonborn, obliterate, then they arrive. Trail of Tears and Sorrows. As the hobgoblins are forced to migrate to the southern peninsula, where they arrive what are they called? Ostrogoth style. No, not Ostrogoth. Visigoth. I don't think Trail of Tears is the correct terminology for that. That's a very different thing. And that's not a peninsula anymore, so it gets inverted commas peninsula. Furbolgs are another one. Yeah, Furbolgs and giants and elves could be Furbolgs. Or hell, Minotaurs and elves could be Furbolgs. That kind of makes sense. Then humans and Minotaurs would be Satyr. So we've got to have our Furbolgs. Except here, this is kind of breaking our magic. Satyrs are too magical for humans. Satyrs would be more likely to be gnomes. Who are the Slavs in this? Haven't really created a Slavic faction yet. I mean, Furbolgs are basically magical Minotaurs. That's the way I see them. So yeah, I kind of see Minotaurs being one of the ancient races. Probably, maybe at the same time as the Dwarves and Giants. But I feel like these guys would happen a lot later. I actually kind of like elves and gnomes. Great Furbolgs, rather than Drow, maybe. Because Furbolgs are really magical. They have some crazy abilities. Only it's innate, it's not, oh, I can do magic. Which is more of a gnomish thing. Gnomes are also very innately magical. Whereas the elves just have a propensity to gain magical powers. They study it more easily. At least that's the way that I kind of see the differences. Anyway, it is almost 3 o'clock in the morning and I am flagging hard, so I'm going to call this one here. I think we've made some really good progress. I'm pleased with the fact that we've kind of started to establish on the map where the different people are. You are right, we do need to put someone over here, so that is an open discussion. If you have any ideas, then please do head over to my Discord, which you can find linked there. And head down to the world building section and continue the discussion. Like, I'm very much interested in getting your feedback and impressions. I'm meeting up with a bunch of my friends tomorrow, and one of the things that we might do is start fleshing out some of this stuff ourselves, because they're really good at brainstorming. So there might well be some more progress off camera, as it were, before the session next week. So watch that. Because yeah, they have a system called Microscope, which is, it's another world building tool, but it has to be done with a group. And part of the reason I wanted to get the ages defined here, which we've kind of done, I think I need to go off camera and just define them a bit more myself. But then you can kind of drill down into those ages and start building some more detail, like the rise of individual cities. It's a really good tool for doing that. And then also the rise of like important people, like emperors and popes and stuff like that. So that's probably what I'll start doing with them tomorrow, and then bring that back on stream next Wednesday, and we'll expand from there. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, be sure to hit that follow button to get notifications when I'm live again in the future. If you've really enjoyed this and you would like to support the channel, do consider subscribing here on Twitch, or you can also check out the Patreon. Otherwise, come join us on Discord. The discussion is ongoing over there. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you all later.